Perfect. Welcome to the Bee Issue Show, everyone. I'm your host, Carolina, and today I have the absolute pleasure of having Sabeen here. We're going to be exploring Sabeen's journey, and it's nothing short of extraordinary. As the creative force behind the 20 something podcast, she dwells fearlessly into the unspoken experiences of navigating adulthood into your 20s, from dating and friendships to jobs, work life balance, podcasts, laughters, comfort, and invaluable guidance to her listeners. Not only is she vulnerable, but she's also very upfront and honest about her life experience. But Tavi's passion for empowerment doesn't stop there. Uh-uh. What she's now creating Kaboo Wellness. She's on a mission to revolutionize the wellness industry, providing a search engine dedicated to provide transparency, easy comparison, and quick booking for wellness in the beauty industry. And we're going to talk a little bit about this, and we're going to ask her all the questions, how she felt inspired and how she got started. It was inspired a little bit. I'm going to describe a little bit of this. It was inspired by her own experiences juggling self-care during her Wall Street days. Sabeen's vision for Kaboo is nothing but short of grounding. Today, we're thrilled to have Sabeen on the show, share her insights, experiences, wisdom with us, from inclusivity to transparency to cultural diversity and holistic wellness. Sabeen's journey is super impactful and inspiring to me. So welcome to the Bishu Show, Sabeen. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us. And our listeners are going to be so excited. First of all, I want to start asking you and introducing you to our listeners. Tell us a little bit about how you started your personal experience into creating 20 something podcast. What motivated you to address these topics that you talk about that are often overlooked or considered taboo? And I also know that you were able to go to Fashion Week. So tell us about your experience there too.
Yeah. So I don't think I went to Fashion Week. I think I had like gotten invited to an event. I think unfortunately at the time I was going through some like family stuff, so I didn't end up going. Yeah, with 20 something, it really just started as it was a time in my life where there's a lot of stuff up in the air. And I was navigating, recently like being unemployed. I was moving home. I was like traveling a lot to figure out what was going on with me and the type of person I am. And I think 20 something just was kind of this brainchild of like, let's just talk about the things that everyone goes through as just normal people. And let's just like hear from other 20 somethings because no one has it figured out and no one has any idea what's going on. And so that's really what inspired 20 something. And I think my co-host at the time and I, like, we were both in these like really unstable, uncertain spaces of being in your 20s. And then we were also both came from different cultural backgrounds as women of color and just felt that there weren't a lot of podcasts that just like spoke to the experiences that like women of color have too, especially when it comes to like the more taboo topics like dating and relationships and friendships. And I think there were some really interesting insights there. And I think that's kind of how it started and had a great season one. I was told people season two would come back in spring. I'm working on Khoobi, which you had brought up too, which is my new like wellness startup. So that has definitely taken a lot of my time. I really loved doing the podcast, so would love to come back to it. But just TBD on when that's happening.
Okay, that's perfect. So everyone just remember TBD on that. And tell us a little bit about the vulnerabilities that you talk about, because I did listen to your podcast and I was listening to how you felt overwhelmed in 2023. Basically, you kind of had a breakup and you felt like it wasn't your year, but you planned that 2024 was going to be something better. How most of us, we tend to write goals to do, and it could be overwhelming for some people. So I want our listeners to hear that also from from you.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the vulnerabilities I shared were, I really felt like sitting at the end of 2023, like I really just felt like it had been a tough year. Like I was working when it started, like in a job, I was like in like a situationship and a lot of like friendships that were just really like toxic and just all of those situations were hard to navigate and just made me not feel good as a person. And I think 2023 looking back, like it just had been a really tough year. navigating all of these like parts of my 20s. And I think at the end of 2023, I kind of was like, I finally have left these things behind. Like I left, my Wall Street job, which was fantastic, but then also brought a lot of other stressors with like being unemployed and moving home. And like that, was a space that I didn't think I would be in for as long as I was. I think I was navigating like, taking a huge break from dating, and I think I was also navigating like a lot of friend breakups and just like friend issues. And I think I just got really vulnerable at the end of 2023 where I was like, okay, like I think this might be like a step in the right direction, but it's not where I thought I would be. And I think when it came to 2024, it was really just about like, okay, like try to set some like overarching goals for yourself, like try to work towards these things, but also understanding that like the rigorous like goal setting didn't really work for me. I think every time I set these like really high expectations in my head, I think that they should be high expectations, but that like those expectations don't have to look the same and that they can look different. And it might not be like, I will get a job in 3 months, but it's like, oh, like I will try to have a better understanding of like what I'm passionate about or like what I'm interested in doing. Or like, I feel like I went into 2023 really setting these like, I'm gonna have a boyfriend, like I'm gonna have a job, like I'm gonna have all these, and it's like taking a step back and being like, these are your 20s, like these are stressful, complicated, all over the place times, like that might not happen and that's okay, but like let's take the little wins along the way and let's also just like adjust a little if we have to.
Yeah, I totally understand because I feel like sometimes we set goals that are very unrealistic and not approachable because we want to be successful, whether it's on our personal life, on our relationships, on our work. And sometimes it's like, it's not approachable on that year. That doesn't mean that it's never going to be approachable.
Hmm.
It's just going to take maybe 3 or 5 years. And sometimes we could be so harsh on ourselves.
Hmm.
So something that I do want to ask you is like, I think it's very important, like how you talk to yourself, how you treat yourself reflects back on the things that are going to happen and the possibilities in your life. You know what I mean? What's your perspective on this?
Yeah. I'm huge on like taking care of yourself, and the way that you treat yourself is just how you're going to feel about yourself and then present yourself to the world and to others. And so I think especially going through, a stressful year, whether it was like while I was working in banking or after when I was, figuring out unemployment, and now I'm working on my startup, and like it's just there's a lot of stresses and there's a lot of opportunities to just like sit within like I don't know, like you're just like be gross and like not take care of yourself. And I think especially, you know, in corporate America and in kind of just like I know you used to work in tech, like in all of these very corporate industrial spaces, like there's a lot about like you put the company first, you put the project first, like you have to like do all these things to be successful. And I think I've noticed that sometimes when I'm in like the grind, like I'll really just stop taking care of myself. I'm like, oh, I have to get this done. Like I have to get this project done. And I think my perspective is like you are going to be a better employee, founder, you know, software engineer, whatever your trade is, by like taking care of yourself first and then making sure that you are like this person that can like be put together and that can then express their ideas clearly and then like work better. And I think that's just my perspective on it. And that's what I've learned. And I think that comes up in different ways, like whether that's like you do your skincare routine or you go for a walk in the middle of the day or like you go get like your nails done like every 2 weeks. Like I think it's just like whatever you can to like take care of yourself, like bring yourself back to like, okay, I need to like organize myself first before I can start organizing something else.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you because when I was in the tech industry, I would be like running like go, 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 go. And it's like you never have time. You're always working 24/7. I remember that I used to be on call, and it's something that would give me a lot of stress. And sometimes
Mhm.
because you're like on the day to day, like you don't realize that you're getting stressed, that you're getting
Yeah.
anxious, and so on. So tell me a little bit, what are some of your wellness tips that you do that work for you? Because every person has a different approach to that. So let's get into yours.
My wellness routine. I think there's like two parts to it. So I think like I have to be like physically healthy. I think like especially like within the past month, even I've noticed that like I really stopped working out. Like it makes me feel like I just don't feel like I feel kind of gross. Like I'm like I think so wellness for me is like trying to like go for a walk or a run or like lift or do something in the morning. So I think that's like a big piece of it for me. And then I think wellness also looks like a skincare routine. Like I think for me specifically, um, I have a very easy, like chill skincare routine. I try to do it every morning. But like if you want me to get into like the details, would that be helpful or yeah,
Yes,
so
please.
I'm a big like I don't know, like I kind of think that my perspective on skincare and wellness is like you just keep it simple and you keep it clean. So I just do like a couple of road products and then moisturizer and like under eye cream. So I'm like very bare bones on that. But I think that's always like that's kind of like the at home or like daily piece. And then for me, I've always said, and this is kind of the inspiration behind Khoobi too, is I think I always feel so much more put together just for myself to have my nails done and my hair done. And so I like having my nails done like, at least every 2 to 3 weeks. I think that's something that makes me feel like really just put together and more confident and just like clean cut. And then I think like I am exploring my hair routine at the moment. My hair is tied back right now, but I have like curly, like wavy hair, kind of like yours. And so I'm just trying to like explore the best way to like keep it healthy, like wear it in a way that I like the way that it looks. So I think, like trying to learn more there. But I think, those three pieces, like I think like the fitness, the skincare, and then these small like little wellness services, like, getting my nails in every like 2 to 3 weeks. And then I think sometimes like I'll get like a facial or a massage, just like the little pieces that make me feel put together and make me feel like set.
Yeah, no, that's important for sure because everyone has their own. And tell us a little bit. I know that this is now your new like personality, new you, but we also want to know about how was your transition from quitting your job, moving into your parents' house to establishing being comfortable at home again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and starting Kubi Wellness.
Khoobi, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was a very different and difficult transition. I think I went from this place of having like so much just independence, both in like in terms of who I wouldn't say like answer to, like if I was going somewhere and doing something like I was solely responsible for myself, and then also financially being very independent and not really feeling like I had a limit on like, oh, okay, if I want to like go get a $300 facial, I can go do that. If I want to like go shopping, if I want to go purchase something, like I didn't feel the stress of that, which was such a blessing. And I think the
Hmm.
transition coming home was, socially, you're leaving your friends, you are living with your parents. And I think that was something that was different, definitely a difficult transition to manage because even though my parents aren't like, you can't go there, I just wasn't used to being like, okay, like I'm leaving the house, I'm going here, like I'm seeing this person. I think socially, like, it was really tough because I wasn't living like with my friends anymore. And going and seeing my friends was like this production of like, okay, who am I going to crash with? Like, where are we going? Like, how am I going to get there? I think that was a big transition. I think financially, having to like really start working off my savings, like my, like living rent free at home is such a like I'm so grateful and it's such a blessing. And so I think that also I think mentally I took a hit because I think you know, I was so proud of being financially independent and so proud of like being able to buy things for myself and pay my own rent and be an independent person. And so I think coming home, you definitely take a bit of a hit of like, okay, like, am I no longer a contributing member to society? Like, how does this make me feel? Like, why do I feel like I have no identity because I have no job? And why do I feel like I can't do anything because now I'm not making money and I feel like I'm behind. And I think that was just such a huge piece of things that I had to work through. And it was a really tough transition. But I think ultimately, I'd like to say like time kind of heals all wounds. I think my family started getting more used to having me around. I got more used to understanding like, you re-enter your family dynamics and, how to find my moments of alone and peace and quiet and the things that worked for me. But also then enjoying the time that I now have with my family. Like it's still been a tough transition socially, but I think having friends that are understanding of like, okay, like if you're coming into New York City to see me, my couch is free, like please stay, like kind of not making me feel like a burden. I think financially it's like still a tough transition, but I'm trying to make like my money from social media and my startup and all these things. So I think that's kind of on the up and up. But really just it took a lot of reflection of like you are worth so much more than like your LinkedIn, title line. And you have such a great opportunity to instead of thinking of this as like you're falling behind your peers, that you're like taking time to recuperate. And this is time that you might look back on fondly and be like, wow, I can't like imagine the days when I was like chilling, I was like spending time with my family, like I was really just taking a break from like the crazy of everything.
Yeah, I know that makes a big, like so much sense because I've had the same issue. Unfortunately, I didn't move in with my parents because
Hmm.
that would have been amazing. But I was like, I remember I was like grabbing, like I had like an actual trash bag where I would put my clothes and I would be like nowhere to live. Like it was it's extremely hard and you're not the only one. So what I want to tell our listeners out there is that sometimes we have to make tough decisions, but it's going
Hmm.
to be worth it in the long term. And at the same time, like maybe during the time of this process and this change, you may feel like, oh my God, everything's horrible. But when you look back, at least for me, I don't know about you, so I'll ask you after. For me, it's been so worth it. And I've had to make so many tough choices and sacrifices to pursue Bijou.
Hmm.
What do you think, like from, being not sure that you wanted to move to now that you feel more comfortable and it's still like in a transition phase? Like, do you feel like you think it's been the best decision so far now that you've experienced it for a little bit?
I think that it's taught me that like there really truly is a reason for everything to happen. And I think that that's what this whole experience has taught me, is that like I think there are a lot of things in your life that you can't control. Like, if you lost your job, or like, if you're like working on your startup and it is going well and then it isn't going well. Like there's a lot of different things that you can and can't control in this life. And I think it's just taught me to be like, okay, like if I'm supposed to be living at home right now, I'm supposed to be living with my family, like I'm supposed to like be working on my startup, and like these are the circumstances, then that's it. And I just trust that in the long term, like bigger picture, like this will make sense. And I think I'm enjoying it now more. Kind of on a personal note, because my younger brother's going to college in the fall. And then so then my parents will be empty nesters. So I feel like this is time that look back on, that I will look back on and be like, okay, I have time with my family, especially coming off of like, you know, I like my parents, for example, live in the suburbs. Like they live 30 minutes outside of New York City. And I remember I never saw them when I was working in banking because I just was so stressed out. I was working a lot. I didn't want to come home. And so I think like maybe in a weird way, this is like life making up for the fact that I like ignored my parents for like a year and a half or 2 years. But yeah, I don't know. I think it'll be a good decision in the long run, and it probably has its own merits and reasons. But it definitely was difficult. Like I like want to echo that to the listeners, that like it's not easy like going through these big changes, and it's harder the older you are when you do it. But like it is just sometimes like like you'll end up where you're supposed to be, and you'll get what you need out of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Something that I feel like I also experienced during that time, and I still struggle. I mean, every
Yeah.
day I still struggle, but it was like my identity. Sometimes we put our identities on, oh my God, I'm an engineer, therefore that's who I have to be. Everyone sees me as, working in the tech industry, super successful. And I feel like sometimes we base our identity on the things that we could be. So like you're a daughter, you're a founder, you're a podcast, founder. You have successful friends, you're making money, and we forget to focus on our internal identity, which I think is most important. Has that ever happened to you before?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's one of the really hard processes and parts of going through like the unemployment transition, is my whole like, identity was like, oh, I'm an investment banker, like I work at this firm. Like when you're like out in New York City, like the third question or the second question you get asked, it's like, oh, like so like what's your name? Like where do you live in the city? And then it's like, oh, what do you do? And so like I think, I think it was just like really hard, and it's still hard, when people are like, before I kind of committed to building the startup, I was like, do I say I'm a content creator? Like, do I say that I'm like a podcast host? And I think that that was such a difficult identity to come to terms with, that like, I'm not this corporate job anymore. But I do think that's kind of freeing, because you're like, okay, well, now I can like go be and do whatever else I want to be. And maybe it tells you that you shouldn't let work and titles like define your life in the way that you are. And so I completely agree with what you had said. Like it's just, but it's a tough transition regardless. And I think because um I don't know, I just feel like we put so much weight, and I think especially like in the circles that I was in, just like I'm Pakistani, and like the Pakistani community is very big on like having professionals and like having a profession and a career. I think like, I like the finance community and just kind of like certain circles I feel like I was a part of just put a lot of pressure on like having a good career and title, and like that is the driving source of who you are. And while I think it's important, I think I like the type of person you are and like your intrinsic qualities are also like really, really important too.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Because I remember when I was laid off, I was like, oh my, I would get anxiety and depression. And inside of me, like I was like, oh my God, I really want to get let go or, fired so that I could pursue my business. And then when it actually happened, like my thoughts were, it's like, okay, I really wanted it. It's like my brain wasn't ready for that to happen. And it was just like, okay, I started working like a beast, crazy, because I was like, oh my God, same thing like you, where I don't want to be independent. Like, I don't want to be dependent financially from somebody else. How am I going to make money? How am I going to survive? So all these different thoughts came to my head, and I really struggled through that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I wanted to share that with you because, I'm here to support you and everyone else who's listening to this. Now, during this transition, I've seen that you are now working on Khoobi. Can you elaborate on your mission, your vision, and why you started it? How this is going to help the world, and just your transition towards it, how it was
Yeah.
born.
Yeah, so Khoobi, at its core, like what I'm trying to build is a marketplace for beauty and wellness services. I wanted to build something that's price transparent. I want to build something that really allows businesses to have the visibility they need with customers, whether that's through last minute appointments or wait times. And then I want people to be rewarded for supporting small businesses and accrue points and, salon and spa specific rewards. So Khoobi was, really just born out of a couple of different things. I think in my Wall Street time, I was constantly trying to find ways to take care of myself. And as I mentioned earlier, like there are ways that just make me feel more confident and more presentable. And so I would like run to get my nails done. Like I would, if I had like a busy day and I was hanging out with friends and I was like, oh my God, I haven't washed my hair. Like, can I squeeze a blowout in between like my last meeting and like when I'm like heading to this friend's place? And I don't know, just kind of found myself like participating in a lot of these like, day of decisions of, I'm busy and where can I go now and what services can I get? And I think that that also just transitioned into once I like left my job and I was more price sensitive and I, didn't have the financial freedom to just spend whatever I wanted, really just brought into, clarity that there is just so much unnecessary information when it comes to like booking your wellness services. Like there's no transparency on price. You have to go to different websites. And then when you're trying to book, like some places have online booking, some places want you to call ahead. Again, each with their own booking systems. And then you can spend all this money and like be really loyal to a business and still not really accrue many rewards. And so I think the vision is to build something that really gives and empowers people to take care of themselves and show up for themselves regardless of what their price point or their schedule is. But then I think the secondary piece that once I really started exploring this idea that came to light is that so many of these businesses are small women owned businesses, immigrant owned businesses like these salons and spas. And they just have no great tools when it comes to marketing them to customers. A lot of them were like, people tend to walk by and see our sidewalk signage. Like, I think we're on Google, like maybe someone recommended us, but really, like, they don't have great tools and existing businesses that can support them in, reaching customers and having that customer visibility. So, Khoobi is not only about empowering people to take care of themselves, but it is about empowering these small, business owners that provide amazing quality, work and products. But oftentimes, like because there are no frills business, people prefer to go to franchises or larger locations. And so I think really highlighting those and I think that's really the mission and the vision of Khoobi. So yeah, I mean, in terms of the transition and how we got started, I was very passively playing around with Khoobi for a couple of months. And I was kind of writing a business plan. I was like, yeah, I'll write this business plan and then I'll share it with my friends. And then if they like it, I'll pursue it, which was just this really long-winded way of like killing time for no reason and wasting time. And so I ended up at the time I was like looking for jobs and just was getting nowhere on the job search. And I'm going to choose to believe that it was because I was meant to go and start building Khoobi. But was just having a really hard time and then met with someone who is also a founder. And when he and I talked, he was like, I really feel like you should build something of your own. And I was like, well, I have this idea. And we talked, and I think that was kind of the start of Khoobi. And it's really strange because I have made so much more progress on building this company than I have ever with like any job search. And so I kind of take that as a sign of like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And this feels really right. And that was definitely like it's been a very rewarding transition becoming a founder, and I'm very like proud to say that I'm a founder, and it feels really nice.
That's so great. Like I thought it was so, number one, I love that, but I thought it was so funny where it's like, oh, I'm just gonna waste my time and like start doing research paper and a business plan, and look where you are now. How does it feel? Like, do you feel wonderful? I mean, it sounds like you were meant for this.
I'm really excited. I think I've never started a tech company, so it's really interesting because, um, I think like the end vision is still like, a couple months away. So we launched our pilot, which is just the search engine, which we launched like, about like this past Friday. And
Mhm.
I just curated a bunch of recommendations off of TikTok. People like commented. I made a TikTok and I got like 600 comments of just people's favorite spots. And they were like, these are the prices, like, this is why I love to go, and just built a search engine for people to use to easily find things. And I think that's step one. I'm very proud of it, but I'm like sitting here, I'm like, okay, like I really want to like keep going. Like we got to get steps like 2 through 10. Like I want the next version, but like things take time, and I just want to build this like with community in mind, like of both the people that would use it and also the businesses that should be represented on it. Like I want to really build in public and just, really just make this a good product for people to use. And I think I'm very proud of it, but I'm like ready to get moving on the next stuff.
I understand sometimes we're like, okay, I just want to be here, but I'm only here. So
Yeah.
I'm like you, I get it.
Yeah.
Now, let's switch the subject a little bit. Let's talk about some of the common struggles or challenges
Mhm.
faced by young adults today. How do you believe this can impact their overall wellness? And what would be your advice to them?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of different challenges that can impact like young people. I think my story, I can only speak for myself, but dealing with a very intense corporate job and then, the pressures associated with that. I think moving to a new city and making a bunch of friends and not knowing if those are the best friendships for you. I think the transition out of both of those and into like the moving at home like we talked about. So I think there's a lot of different things that impact people, but I think the big learnings that I've had, regardless of what your situation is like how do you protect your peace and how do you find your moments of like, look, this job isn't serving me, like I can't quit it, but maybe I can like try to like, how do I, protect my self? And like, is that I need to get a workout in every morning? Oh, I need to like go get skincare done. Like, okay, like I need to take like one weekend off, a month or something, just whatever your way is to protect your peace. Like, I think that is the biggest thing. And I think that's look different. I think with friendships, sometimes it's like, look, I'm not engaging in this fight or this drama. I think with my family, it looked like, okay, I'm going to just go for a walk or like close my door or like try to go hang out with friends. Like I think whatever it is to like almost disengage and remove yourself from anything that could be affecting you, to like find a better way to deal with it. I think that was my saving grace in like all of my different challenges and situations.
Yeah, no, I understand. And when you're facing a challenge, like, you know how sometimes we could get in a dark space, like, how have you been able to overcome this, especially like self-talk or your mental health? And
Yeah.
how have you been able to cultivate it into something positive?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like in a weird way, and I had heard another woman speak about this on panel, but I think like dark spaces are really sometimes necessary for some people. I think for me, like I sometimes like have to go through it. And like there were times where I got rejected from like a bunch of jobs that I went through final stages with, and I like sit in my room and I'm cry and I'm like depressed for like a 1 or 2 days. I don't shower, like whatever. But that's my way of being like, okay, we have like emoted and expressed all of this. Now, what are the steps to get out of it? And I think for me, like, you know, I just feel like sometimes I have to like go through the dark spaces in order to just be like, okay, I'm done with this now. Like we are moving past this. And then I think in terms of like ways to balance my mental health after that point, like for me, I just kind of, I don't know, I do a lot of like, I don't want to call it like journaling, but like almost like I'm gonna say product mapping, but it's not product mapping where I'm like, okay, like this week, like I'll do this and this and this, and like, like next week, like I'm gonna start focusing on this. Like I really do a lot of like writing stuff down, like whiteboarding, like talking it out. And I think that like I have almost like conversations with myself where I'm like, okay, Sabine, like this happened, like fine, it didn't work out. Like, what are we doing next? Like, what are the next steps for us? I'm a big fan of therapy also. Like I think that's like just having someone to talk to that has a very unbiased look that can help you sort through things you might have missed is always great. So I would say those are my two or three things.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm a big fan of psychology or going to therapy too, because I feel like just like we work out our body and our muscles, we also have to work out our brain. And whether it's somebody listening to us or not necessarily seeing a psychologist or a therapist, but your own way of using therapy, whether it could be journaling, it could be like tapping exercises, just different ways so that we could still stay calm and at peace. Have you ever felt like you've had anxiety or depression before or no?
I've definitely dealt with anxiety for sure. I've never like been diagnosed, but I definitely have like had used to be like very anxious during my job. Like I talked about this, but I would like, I knew it was time for me to leave when I would like wake up every morning and I was like, I have to throw up. Like I feel so nauseous. Like I don't want to go in. Like what do people think of me? Like all of those kind of like really anxious thoughts. I'm in a really great place now. I think again, one of the signs of when you're meant to be doing something, it feels right. Where I go through so much stress, like arguably more with this startup, but I'm not like the anxiety I have, it's almost like it's flipped now where it's like, okay, it's like the overthinking of how can we get to this faster? Like, how can we build this? Like, how can we do this? And I think I definitely dealt with those. And I think, like seeing a therapist and like, having a good structure, like support around you, whether that's like friends or family, were like very helpful in dealing with those situations.
Yeah, no, definitely. I totally agree. So now that you feel like you're like, your self-esteem is high, you feel confident, your well-being is great, what would you say Sabine would be doing in the next 2 years? I know that you're working towards Khoobi. What are your number one personal goals, your work-life goals also?
Oh boy. I think personal goals, I would love to eventually move back out. I think living with my parents has been a great experience, but I don't know. I'm currently in the suburbs of New York. Like I would love to be back in New York City, or I would love to move to a new city even just to really just be back around people my own age. Like I think I just love like the kind of the suburbs are very quiet and chill, which is nice, but there's just such a like upbeatness to big cities, and I think would love to be back in New York or somewhere else. That's like a major city. I'm a big LA fan. I don't know why, but I would love to be on the West Coast. And I think that like, and I would say like kind of like my work goals are I would love to grow Khoobi. I really feel strongly that it's something I want to build. And so I really hope that we're successful in building something that people end up using. And then I think in alignment with that, I think that social media has been such a good creative outlet for me. So just continuing to like build my content, like continuing to grow Khoobi's content, like ideally getting the podcast back up. Like I think really like doing the passion projects and the things that I, really am excited about and being able to like monetize them and grow them would be like the work goal too.
Okay. Um, so now, do you feel like maybe you feel a little like lonely because your friends are not there? And
For sure.
another question, you do?
Oh, for sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're missing them and like maybe all the activities like in the city, there's so much to do, right? Versus
Mhm.
I don't know how it is in the suburbs, honestly. Um,
It's quiet. But yeah, no, I think like the winter, don't know if I felt it as much, but I think I like New York City in the summer is like one of my favorite things. Like everyone's outside. Like I don't know, like I'm really big into like EDM. So there's like a lot of like EDM music, and then like you can just spend like your time in Central Park, like you can go for walks. Like I feel like that like there's kind of like just so much fun and like so much more energy that happens in the summer, and I really want to get back into that.
yeah, for sure. I'm totally um, like be with you because I love EDM music too. So another thing that I want to ask you is what roles in your relationships, like, do you think they are helpful and they change your overall well-being and self-esteem? Who now that you've transitioned from changing friends, keeping some of them, making maybe new ones, do you think that has shaped your like who you are now, the new Sabine, after all this transition?
Absolutely. I think your friends are a reflection of who you are, and, just are like a reflection of what you're going through. And I think the people that I've now like chosen no longer to be friends with or left behind are people that I feel like don't represent the type of person I am. And I think the people that I like am still friends with, or I wouldn't, because you go through a lot of changes in life. So I wouldn't say you like drop friends every time you go through changes, but I think that like the friendships that really grow with you and you guys grow with each other and are able to support each other through transitions, like I think those friendships are very supportive and are people that like just you truly get each other. And I think that that's one of the big transitions coming into your 20s is you go from like having a lot of like acquaintances and like kind of these types of like little friends and be like, okay, I'm investing in like longer term friendships, I'm investing in deeper friendships. And I think that's made me feel a lot better. And I think the person that I am now really has people that I have long-term friends that have grown with me. I have new friends that are, aligned to like the type of person I am, and that arguably are supporting me in like one of the like lower moments of my life. Like I think I am so excited to be growing Khoobi. Like I'm so excited that I'm like finally on the up and up. But there was a period of time where I had like lost some of my closest friends. Like I was really going through job stresses. Like I like, hadn't even started Khoobi yet. So, and even now, like Khoobi's not like a money making profitable business. Like we're still very much in the early idea pilot stage. So I think the people I'm meeting now are like really supportive of like to like this journey that I'm on, and are not people that I met when I would like are like I was a very different person when I was 2 years ago, like working in my banking job and making all this money and like had everything at my fingertips.
Yeah, no, I totally understand because it takes a long time for a business to be profitable, including Bijou too. Like we're working towards that and striving towards that. So I totally
Mhm.
understand. And yeah, I've had the same experience as you where I've changed and some friends have stayed with me along the way and others I've outgrown them,
Mhm.
honestly. And I think it's part of life, you know what I mean?
For sure. I think it's just like it's sad to sometimes outgrow friendships, but I think sometimes you just realize like you're not compatible, like you're not enjoying like the relationship, like like it's just like I think at least too I'm in a place in my life where like my female friendships are some of my like deepest like worthwhile relationships, and so if those are causing stress and are like insecurity and just aren't serving me, then like those aren't supposed to be like the stressful pieces of my life. Like the people that I have these like very deep, meaningful friendships with should be arguably the least stressful aspect of my life and are supposed to support me through the things that are really stressful.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And we're gonna ask you one last question because time is going by so quickly with you, Sabine. Thank you for being here.
Of
We're gonna
course.
ask you we're gonna ask you a little bit about Bishu.
Mhm.
So let's talk a little bit about okay, do you know a little bit about Bijou? Do you know what we stand for? What is your opinion of Bijou? And I know that a lot of people are overwhelmed in the beauty industry, especially skincare, or some people I still talk to that don't know how to wear makeup. I'm like one of those people who I barely wear any makeup. So tell us your opinion.
Okay. So I have not tried Bijou yet. I'm very excited to. I hope I'm not going to say what because I don't know if you're announcing this, but I know that you have like a potential partnership in the works. So I'm very excited. And when that drops, I will be taking all my friends and family, because I've heard about Bijou, because we've met, and your story is so inspiring about like why you found Bijou, and why it means so much to you, and why like skincare means to you. And I think it really resonates well with, I know that we were talking about all these stresses that you kind of go through in your 20s and all these life challenges that you go through, and finding that thing that pulls you out of it and that gives you your moment of peace. And it really seemed like in your story, Bijou is it does that for you. And so I think that, like, one, I think the mission and the behind it is very impactful. Two, I've never heard of a brand that it's like that is able to work like that is able to, trying to figure out how to phrase this. Like, I know that people with asthma can use Beiju products in a way that like it wouldn't, what, can you give me the filler word here, like that it wouldn't like irritate their asthma?
Yeah,
Does that
like
make sense?
I would say like an asthma attack. Usually that's what happens where you can't breathe.
Yeah.
You have an asthma attack.
Yeah, but Bijou is like, because you made it in mind for your, in terms of like what you go through, and that it's supposed to like be useful for people that have asthma, right?
Yeah, asthma, allergies, and sensitive
Yes,
skin.
exactly. So I like feel like, I think that that's just like such an inclusive opportunity, and that's just like serving populations that may not usually be served by like traditional like bigger brands like skincare products. And I think you're giving people something that works for them. So I think like I'm super excited, for you and for Bijou, and I'm so like behind the vision and behind the mission 100%. And yeah, like I think it's awesome.
Thank you so much. And because you haven't tried it, you're gonna have to try it. So we're gonna be sending you a free product, so you could try it and tell us. Like, we just want honest opinion, great feedback, or negative feedback is always good because it gives us a way to improve, to change, and to
Yes.
pivot.
Absolutely. And yeah, and I want to like yell this at the listeners, like for startup founders and for like founders specifically, like we want your feedback. Like the amount of people I've been DMing that are like, I'm like, hey, I saw you comment, like, do you like the website? Like, what do you like? I 100% like, please give feedback to like both Carolina and myself, or any other founders, because we 100% want all like the good, bad, and like ugly on what you think about our products.
Yes, for sure. Don't be nice, just tell us the truth, because it usually makes us grow and like have a better brand and be
Yeah.
better founders overall.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the product at the end of the day is like, yeah, like, we have the brand, but it's the product for like the people and the customers. And like, if y'all don't like it, then you need to tell us, because then we need to fix it so it works for you.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more with you. Another thing, do you have like any advice or books that you're reading, or something that you want to tell our customers that has helped you, during your journey? Any podcast that you listen to, or something that has been like extremely motivating in terms of your mental health, or just knowledge overall?
Yeah, I'm a horrible founder in that I really don't like podcast or read, and I have just been like in it. I think what's been really helpful for me is and I know you've been to one of these events, but I think that going to like female networking events, especially if you're a woman, or like founder events, or these panels that have founders, are, even if you're not a founder yourself, are so inspiring, because these are people that have like gone through the grind, that now have all this wisdom on how to build something. But also just like, there are a lot of people that go to these panels and these events that really just are like, oh, I'm not happy in my job, like how should I change that? And like kind of come back with these inspiring takes of like, oh, like, you can build something, or you can like figure out what your strengths are and like move to a different job. Or my point being, like, I think going to these panels and networking events and just meeting other people and hearing other stories has been the best thing for me, because then I am learning from people, my own age and through their own experiences and what they've been through. And I think they have really great recs and resources that you can read into. And I think also it helps you grow and expand your network. Like, I think, meeting someone that may have expertise in an area that you don't is really helpful when you like eventually may need expertise in that area and you may need advice. So I'm big on like going to networking events. I know that they're scary, and I know that they're like often just kind of like very like, hi, like, where do you work? Like, what do you need? Like, I promise they're not transactional. And if you go to, as a woman, go to a women's networking event, like, you will find that there's so much more like emotion and storytelling and just people behind like your business card.
Yeah, it's the honest truth what you're saying and real talk. Me as a founder, I don't have time to read very much, so I'm just like you. Sometimes you just get so like into work and hyper focused. Like for me, it becomes kind of like an obsession. Not necessarily saying that it's bad, but it's like an obsession that all you think about, breathe about. It's like at least I do is bijou, and I'm sure you're doing the same thing, right? Like learning and changing and just focusing on all the growth that you have to do, which takes a lot to put in your foundation.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's just, I think for me, I like have the things I do for work, and then I wish I could read for fun. It happens sometimes and it doesn't, but I think like you kind of just whatever your enjoyment is outside of work, like do that. And I think for me, that's like film and TV and movies and going on walks. So
Yeah, no, I get it. So one last thing, where could we find you? Um, Whether in social media or LinkedIn or just different websites, please tell us your handle and how we could find you.
yeah, I'm actually going to give you the first handle is going to be for Khoobi. So if you go follow Khoobi Wellness, it's Khoobi Wellness on Instagram. I'm not sure when this episode's going to drop, but we are doing a giveaway at the moment for 3 free gel manicures as kind of like a thank you for helping us launch our pilot. But if like I plan on doing many more giveaways, and like I want to make it a very community centered space for people's like recommendations for like, if you're in New York City spots, but I really want to make a lot of content about like different types of wellness services and whatnot. And I would appreciate it if you're listening, if you could go to the website, which is khoobiwellness.com, and look at our search engine. If you live in New York City, try it out. If you don't, my DMs are open. Would love to hear what your thoughts are on it. And then my personal handle is at the Sabway. So it's TheSabway. I'm on Instagram and TikTok. And would just love to connect with people and get feedback and just like chat. And you can find me making content about what's going on in my life there.
Perfect. Definitely, everyone, please go rewind and follow her and Khoobi as well. So this episode has gone by so quickly. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the Bijou Show. I'm Carolina, just signing off. Until next time, embrace your beauty, nurture, and your well-being. And always remember, you are enough. Thank you for being part of the Bijou community.